Hi, Muskrat Jim here with another episode of Foraging in the Back 40. Today we're on my front lawn and we just want to take a look at some of the weeds that are growing here. Now this plant is sow thistle. You can see these leaves have all these little spines on them. Anyway, the leaves, surprisingly, are edible, but you have to remove all of the spines. Now, if you take a look, each leaf has like dozens and dozens and dozens of spines on them, on the edge. So the easiest way to get rid of them would be with a pair of scissors. You would just trim the edge of the leaf off, and then it would just leave you with the core. Another thing about sow thistle, I don't know whether to pronounce it sow thistle or sow thistle, but anyway, the leaves, as you can see right here, they kind of wrap around the stem like that. Anyway, the other edible properties of this plant include the flower buds. You can pick those off and boil them for a few minutes and eat them just like dandelion buds. The other thing is the stems. You can peel the older stems and cook what's inside, and as well the roots. This has sort of a taproot like a carrot or a dandelion, and that can be peeled and cooked like a vegetable as well. So that's the sow thistle. This is an example of yellow wood sorrel. The reason why it's called yellow is because the blossoms on this variety turn yellow. But wood sorrel also has other colors like red and violet and stuff like that. Everything about this plant is edible, from the leaves to the flowers to even these little bead pods. Anyway, it has kind of a vinegary sort of a flavor. It's caused by a certain type of acid that, if taken in large quantities, will inhibit your body's ability to absorb calcium. So these have to be eaten in limited quantities. The other thing about these is that if you boil them, they turn into just a brown, kind of a tasteless, oh, they're horrible. So these are best eaten raw, just like this. Nice and zingy. And a real nice flavor. Really good. So that's a yellow wood sorrel. These rose hips are turning nice and red. You can eat these right off the vine. They basically stay like an orangey red, and I'm just going to break this open so you can see there's a fruit around it. You can eat the fruit, and it's sort of like apples, because roses are actually related to apples. And as you get closer to the center, you see the seeds there, so you don't have to eat the seeds. But anyway, if you were to cut that open and take all the seeds out, you could eat what's left. Anyway, quite tasty, and they stay on the vine, they stay on the rose bush much of the winter actually, so that's a really good survival food. This is sheep sorrel. Its flavor is close to that of the wood sorrel. You can recognize this by the arrow-shaped leaves, and the older stalks are actually red. Anyway, again, these, like the wood sorrel, if you boil them, they'll kind of turn into nothing and lose their flavor and stuff. But anyway, you can eat these as a salad green, and it sort of has that vinegary flavor that people like to have in their salads. Nice and tangy. But again, this, like the wood sorrel, which is the wood sorrel, which is right here, has that acid that I can't remember the name of it, but it inhibits the body's ability to absorb calcium. So you have to eat them in limited quantities. Like you wouldn't want to eat a full plate of them. But they're nice to munch on, all the same. These are the leaves of the white oak. Very distinctive, pointed, large lobes. And these are the acorns of the white oak. Now, what you can do for these is you peel these caps off, and then you run the actual acorn through some water. Like you have to leach the tannin out of them, because they're not very tasty this way. Squirrels love them, but they're a little too bitter for human consumption this way. That's my cat wondering what I'm doing. Anyway, once these are leached, once the tannin is leached out of these, they can be crushed and ground into a flour, and you can then make breads or muffins or whatever with them. And they're a great survival food as well, because they're really high in protein, being nuts, and they have fats in them, so it's almost like a full diet right there. So those are acorns. This is sphagnum moss. It actually turns into peat moss. It's mostly water, and anyway, you can boil that down just to soften it up a little bit. The whole plant is edible, even this root, but it's really quite woody, so you'd want to boil those down. You can just collect like a whole bunch of them and just throw them in a pot. The way to collect them without actually damaging them is to just take a pair of scissors and just snip the green off. While I was out in the yard back at the oak tree, I found these teaberry plants, wintergreen. So I picked them, and I'm just going to make myself a cup of tea. And anyway, that'll taste just like wintergreen. So just let that steep for 5 minutes or so, and that'll be great.